Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
The Adventures of Batman.
Welcoming you to the new adventures of Batman.
Welcome to episode 1 of Batmanimation, a Batman on Film podcast, revisiting the animated adventures of the Caped Crusader. I'm senior BOF contributor Ryan Lauer, and joining me is another senior BOF contributor for this launch, Ryan Haas, the sheriff. Mr. Haas,
Hello.
Thanks for joining me.
Yes, of course. I was thrilled and honored to be invited to this first episode of yet another BOF podcast. That was the original name for this, right? But then Batmanimation
BOF
sounded more
podcast?
Yet another BOF podcast.
Yet another, yes.
And
that's
now
what it's
it's
going to be called.
But Batmanimation is a much better name.
Yes.
And you've got a good theme song and a good signal that has a purpose to show that that we're going to talk about Batman animated things, and there's a lot of them.
Animated things, yes, and
This
that's
show
why
can go on for a long time.
It really can. It can go on as long as I think we want it to, because it's not just limited to TV series. I mean, it can definitely. I mean, there's plenty of animated Batman movies that this also can include. So yeah, just like really quick, that's what I think this show is going to be for BOF. It's going to come out. It's going to be a team BOF joint. Various voices. Probably won't always hear mine. On here talking about Caped Crusader and animation. And so I really am excited for what you and I are going to talk about, though, because of course it would have been very easy for us to kick this off and do favorite Batman the Animated Series episodes. The
Right.
best Batman the Animated Series episode. Why Batman the Animated Series is the
Right.
best Batman
On
animated
Leather
film.
Wings, episode 1.
Yes, in which I applaud everybody, because there's a reason that show's always talked about, but we went a little deeper than that. We went with something very unique for the first episode, and we're gonna dial back, turn the channel back to revisit Super Friends, specifically the episode The Fear.
We now return to the Superpowers team.
Now, I found conflicting specific release dates that this debuted.
Oh, yes.
October 5th, 1985, and then October 2nd, 1985. But I got October 1985 regardless. And actually, at this point, this was the show, the Challenge of the Super Friends. I mean, Super Friends itself had morphed into a bunch of different titles, and at this point, it was the Superpowers Team Galactic Guardians.
Yes, the final season of Super Friends, as everybody knew it, actually.
Yeah. So I mean, if another thing of kind of conflicting, I think on the IMDb this says it's season 8, episode 5.
Oh no, yeah, you can't.
Yeah, exactly. You go to HBO Max and it's filed under season 10, episode 6 on Super Friends. So it's kind of a little all over the place.
Yeah, the best way to track it is to actually go to the Super Friends on Wikipedia, and it does a pretty good job of explaining the production history, and it's better described as the years, like 1977 to 78 is all new Super Friends hour, 73 to 74 is Super Friends, and then 80 to 82 it's called Super Friends again, and they do a good job of saying like what happened, network changes, name changes, roster changes, cancellation, lost episodes, all kinds of stuff. And then a few years ago, during the height of the pandemic, I think you experienced this too, Lauer. You started buying lots of media more than normal.
I did, yes.
like Blu-rays and DVDs and stuff. And so I always had a couple of Super Friends discs and stuff, but I was like, when I first got them, it was the first ones that they had done, like Super Friends and Challenge of the Super Friends. They came out when the Batman animated series and Superman the animated series first came out on DVD. So I got those, and in the intervening years, I just kind of forgot about it because Super Friends has never been my jam, really.
No,
I mean, E. coli, Eric Holtzman loves it. He's mentioned it many times, but it's never been my Batman. I didn't grow up with it. It's just been, it's been easy to overlook for me. But during the pandemic, I did research Super Friends, and I looked at the ridiculous production history, and was delighted to see that on DVD, at least, they had Warner Brothers had finally released all of the episodes, and the DVD releases are just as, if not more, confusing than the actual run of what the show is itself, because the discs and the releases all have weird different names also that might not always correspond to what came out at the time, and then they came out in different orders. They didn't come out in release order. They just kind of threw things out of like, oh, this is popular, oh, this will be whatever. But eventually, if you do the work, there were some good YouTube videos I had to find actually that explained the chronology. And so I'm missing, the only thing I don't have is like season 1, volume 1. And then
Gotcha.
But so for this podcast, for the episode I picked, I did I hadn't even opened the disc, so I opened it just for this.
So it was that, I mean, what do you want to say? Not damned if you do, damned if you don't feeling, but it was a conflicted feeling of, yes, I get to open this, but also, wait, there's no going back now if I open this. And then you opened it and you watched it.
I opened it. I just needed a good reason to.
Yeah.
Even though it, like
reason.
you said, it is on HBO Max, but who knows when they're gonna take stuff away from you on HBO Max these days. But
I know. So I mean, that's how I watched it, was HBO Max, and I know you and I briefly discussed. I was trying to figure out where to find it exactly. I'm like, it had to be like one of the later seasons, I think, because I was actually a late bloomer to this episode. I only saw it for the first time, like, maybe if all these were on the DC universe before it became infinite.
Were they? I don't know. I didn't even.
I feel like Super Friends was.
It was, but I don't know if it was every episode. Maybe it was, though. I don't know.
I mean, regardless, it was either right when that launched or right when HBO Max launched. That was when I first watched The Fear.
Most people that are familiar with memes and the internet will recognize this as the episode source of the animated sad Batman in the rain gif. That is this episode.
It sure is. I have that jotted down in my notes here. Some notable things. You've likely seen Batman in the rain crying, that zoom in on his face. It is from this episode, The Fear. Yes. This is, let's see, what do I want to know? Because it's been a while since I've watched this too. Like, I've probably only watched it twice before.
Yeah, I've now seen it like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. When I first saw it, it was years ago. We were discussing this. Well, where did you first see it? I want to say, I can't pinpoint exactly when, but I want to say it was sometime shortly after like Cartoon Network picked it up, and they made a big deal about having Super Friends, and they had a bunch of marathons and stuff. And I remember there was some sort of big block of, and they made a big deal about these specific episodes being like good ones, or ones that haven't been aired on TV in X number of years or something. And I vividly remember I didn't remember everything in the episode, but the main points were that it was this very atypical Super Friends episode that was very Batman-centric, that told Batman's origin story, and in a very surprisingly adult way for Super Friends. And
reportedly,
I remember
the first time outside of comics.
Really? Okay.
Yes, that was like a note. It said in media. I don't know the exact. It was on one of the wiki pages, but I was trying to think of, like, I instantly go to Batman 66, in which something, it's
in the first episode of Batman 66. Yeah, he mentions that my parents were murdered by dastardly criminals. But
I haven't watched the New Adventures of Batman or the Batman Adventures to know if that still holds up. But
I'm sure that's not.
Apparently,
mentioned.
It's rumored that this is the first outside of the comic book medium. That it was
I remember
reenacted.
The police ball scene, and seeing and knowing this was strange and unusual because it's also an episode where you see Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson and Commissioner Gordon. Normally in Super Friends, it's just stock Batman character, and you wouldn't even know he's Bruce Wayne unless you already knew it.
I'm glad you touched on. So with that was also something that was funny to me, and how I'm not that familiar with Super Friends as far as watched very many episodes. When Alfred goes into like the kitchen and Dick's in there and he's trying to avoid going outside with mingling because he says that he's afraid that the commissioner's niece is going to ask him to dance, and then there's like a beat again. Which I'm kind of like, I was like, wait, what is that even supposed to mean? But then I also thought too of like, wait, the Commissioner Gordon's niece Barbara, like,
I know,
is that supposed to be Barbara? Because like I don't know when that credits or when that credited of Barbara Gordon is his niece, not his daughter. When that first started, so I don't know, that stood out to me too. And then the humor behind the again, it's like, what does that even mean, pal? But okay. Some notable voicing here: Adam West as Bruce Wayne and Batman, which was kind of, I don't know why I didn't think he was with Super Friends at all.
Well,
I knew he was with other animated adventures, but
and this is part of the confusing thing. I remembered in my head that this was the Owen Sewell Batman. In my head, I was like, oh yeah, it's Super Friends. Of course, it's the Owen Sewell Batman, which is the more common voice you would hear. But and I was first exposed to that animated Batman through Scooby-Doo Meets Batman. But going back, I was like, oh, this is the Adam West Batman. And when you tracking Super Friends is hard enough, but then like you mentioned, there's also a couple of seasons of animated Batman shows that were also made by different companies or the same company. And so tracking, and then some of those were made before Super Friends and some of them were made in between Super Friends. And some of those shows have Adam West and Burt Ward as Batman and Robin. Some of the shows have Owen Sewell and Casey Kasem as Batman and Robin, and then this show has Adam West as Batman and Casey Kasem as Robin. So it does get very confusing. So Adam West did voice Batman in at least some seasons of Super Friends, but it is atypical.
Yeah. And you just said Casey Kasem as Robin, which I mean, Casey Kasem, we all know Casey Kasem, but also the voice of,
Adam West voiced Adam West voiced Batman in this season, and then the legendary Superpower show, which is the season or series right before this one.
So Casey Kasem is Robin. Scarecrow, Andrei Stochka. I'm unfamiliar with him at all, but he also did the voice of Alfred. And then Wonder Woman was BJ Ward. She also voiced the young Bruce Wayne. She popped up, actually. She has a long resume of voice acting work, in which she also popped up on an episode of the animated series. It just is like a side character in one of the episodes with Red Claw.
Okay.
So a little bit of what do you want to say, familiarity, if you will. A notable credit on this: the story was written by Alan Burnett.
How about what?
I know, right?
And then the voice direction was Andrea Romano.
There you go. Boom. Look at this, Ryan brain. So you can see the animated series was not in development yet at this point, but that's kind of fun to think about, of some influences on this episode, in which watching this episode, I like to say that, so similar to like Batman Brave and the Bold, I enjoy it. I can watch it, but the animated series I can binge. I think it's probably a little similar with Super Friends. I can watch some Super Friends, but I can't binge it. And this episode actually really surprised me in it's not dark, or anything, but it's not too hokey either. It feels like a good
straddles the line between 80s, it's Super Friends with some edge, cool,
but and I really like that. And I think IMDb, so for the whole synopsis of the episode, we're not going to break it down because we don't necessarily need to, but IMDb had the best one for it. So wait, IMDb says season 9 episode 4. other documents online said season 8, episode 5, and then HBO Max says season 10, episode 6. So yeah, have fun. But IMDb says while trying to stop the Scarecrow, Batman feels fear for the first time in years, as he will have to face the memory of that night that made him decide to eventually become the Batman. And so that's why this is a landmark animation episode, because it is outside of comics. We see the Wayne murders, but it's done. And also, like, I applaud a clever way to keep it sort of family friendly. Kids, they don't see a gun, they don't hear a gun referenced, they don't hear a gun shot, they don't hear
the words death or my parents got killed or murdered are said. It finds creative ways around, around that. Bruce says, and then I suddenly found that I was alone in the world. Yeah,
and there's look out. He's got and it cuts to a lightning strike,
right,
and then cuts
covers
back
the
to
gunshot.
Batman or Bruce, mommy, daddy.
I know. Yeah, but then
we get the point.
Show, and it's what's very interesting, and I guess you can credit Alan Burnett for this, is that it's not done as a band-aid for it. It's more like he was able to use the tools and restrictions that were given to him in the story, because going down crime alley with the rain and the lightning is a recurring theme that happens around that alley for the whole episode. It's like a triggering kind of moment that associates it. I mean, it's very interesting, and they obviously had a little better animation budget for this episode compared to other Super Friends things, and there are some shots in here that look truly great, almost as if, man, if there was a whole series, this could be like closer to a like a Marshall Rogers kind of Strange Apparitions type of animated.
It's clever, it's cool. So it was comforting in a way, because 80s animation to me is just fun to go back to, in the look, and it feels a little nostalgic and stuff. But then, like you said too, it feels like they did take a little extra step on like the layers, where every time Scarecrow pulls out one of his transmitters and it's got the red like circles and woo, woo, but then all of a sudden all the so we'll just say, like we first get a glimpse of the security guards, and everything around them then turns into a blueprint, it seems. And that's like the effect that when the transmitter is working. And it's that's interesting. But I applaud. It's not like I need a whole episode in like the blueprint, or anything, but it's just like, it just feels like an interesting effect to do for Scarecrow's transmitters, which
it is. It reminded me of later Batman animated series episodes with the Riddler, when he would do virtual reality stuff, and he would go into different worlds and things like that.
By Alan Burnett. I don't know if he wrote that one. A couple of just random notes here. I like how Scarecrow looks in this. I like that he has henchmen called strawmen. Because why not? It's comic booky. And I think that their outfits, I don't know if you've seen the horror anthology movie Trick or Treat. There's like a mascot for that movie named Sam, who looks like a sack head and then like an orange sort of like onesie. And I really think that Scarecrow's henchmen, the strawmen, look just like Sam, which I guess Sam came later. So maybe maybe Sam was inspired by the strawmen. That's just what I thought. My blending of Batman and horror.
Well, and what's cool about this episode too is that Scarecrow is a pretty common villain in other Super Friends seasons. With the Legion of Doom, that's usually one of the Batman facing villains that you get. And this version is much more interesting to me. His design has changed. You even get to see Jonathan Crane is a big part of the episode, which is really, again, atypical for a Super Friends thing like this. You see a lot of people, even you see Diana Prince and Wonder Woman. You see a lot of the characters in their secret identity.
Ernie Hudson got credited as a voice for Cyborg in this episode, and I don't remember. I watched this twice quick. And
maybe it's one of those things where the whole cast always gets Billy.
Yeah, true. I really, and again, this is like a blending of the horror and Batman in me. I think that the final act I thought was awesome. I loved the setting out at the farmhouse by a cornfield, and the Wonder Woman and Robin are tied up on the like scarecrows. It also made me think of the Jose Luis Garcia Lopez cover a little bit.
Yes.
I'm trying to I forget what cover number that is. Do forgive me.
Oh, Ernie
Great
Hudson
reference,
is Cyborg in the episodes where he appears. Yeah.
Okay.
See, and that's probably one of the best compliments I could give this episode too, is that I watching this episode makes me want to kind of binge this whole season to see, and here's some other crazy trivia, is that in some of these episodes, so the voice of Brainiac is Stanley Ralph Ross, which is very interesting because he's also a writer and he wrote episodes of the 60s Batman show.
Oh, bravo.
Yeah.
It's
kind of a crazy connected. Yeah, exactly.
That cover was Batman issue 321, in which I'm sure many people, if they pull it up, they'll see it'll seem familiar. Of that Joker, it's like a Joker cake, and they're the candles, but they're tied up.
Oh, I have that issue. issue.
You do.
It's fantastic.
You
yes,
lucky devil. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned quickly on we see Jonathan Crane in this episode too, in which this long in Super Friends,
Batman 321.
Yeah. This long that Batman still doesn't know the identity of Scarecrow. And so this is when they find out, which I mean, that's cool. It helps with the whole episode, I think.
Not just that, but Batman's never told Dick Grayson his origin story.
Too. I was like, really?
It's wild, but it also, but it's written as obviously it's written in mind that nobody that's ever watched this, we've never told this in Super Friends continuity before. People that are watching this, because back in the day, now we're always like, oh, how many more times can we possibly see the Wayne murders? But this is one of the first times that people have seen it outside of comics.
Yeah.
So this is actually a great way to introduce kids even to the origin of Batman. It's pretty darn well done.
Yeah, it's done to not hopefully traumatize kids while adults still understand and know what really happened. Oh, I was gonna say a part to me that kind of made me feel like, oh yeah, this is the 80s, is when Diana shows up at Wayne Mansion. And she's I don't know, in non-Wonder Woman gear, and her embrace with Bruce, it's almost like they both put their hands up and interlock fingers, and then it's like, hey. I laughed and I was like, was this?
It's probably like a standards and practices thing. No, it's like we can't show them actually hugging. This is as close to a friendly embrace as we can get. Just as in the episode, you can't mention death, you can't have a gun, you can't say the word gun. The fight scenes, right, in Super Friends, and in this episode, you've got Superman and Green Lantern and people too in this episode. It's kind of nuts. It's kind of got something for everybody, but they just use their powers and they don't punch anybody. They don't actually get in physical altercations. There's always a barrier there. And Batman, I mean, he does punch stuff, but it's a scarecrow and he punches the fear generator.
The fear generator.
Yeah.
Another note on the marquee, the poster next to the theater, in the flashback was Robin Hood.
The movie that Super Friends Batman saw was Robin Hood. Yeah. So I don't know. Sometimes, yes, you can say that it doesn't matter, but then as much as it doesn't matter, you could say, so if it doesn't matter, then why would you change that? But also, you know what? I love Robin Hood, so cool. And that could have also been a rights thing. Oh, we can't get Zorro because somebody owns it right now or something like that.
Got it. I appreciated also the locations. So it was pretty much, it was all set in Gotham, minus the quick flash to the Hall of Justice,
Mhm.
but Wayne Mansion, and then the Batcave. We get a cool glimpse inside the Batcave, which I'm not
Right.
totally familiar how much the Batcave was in Super Friends. Maybe it was a lot.
Right.
I'm not sure.
And
But it was still-
Superpowers Batmobile. There's some cool
Yeah,
moments
that was
with
cool.
that.
Mhm.
When the standout moment of the episode is when Batman recounts his origin, and it's cool because it's the Super Friends Batman, but really because it's Adam West getting to do that also. And as he talks through that flashback, the audio is muddled to where you still remember that he's telling this inside the Batcave. It sounds like he's in the Batcave telling it. So that's really cool.
Good point. Mhm.
Yeah.
Nice little note there. So overall, Ryan Haas, let's do this with letter grades. What letter grade would you give The Fear?
After watching it a few times, I would give this a solid A. Solid A.
right.
Really, when you consider the time it was made and what it tried to communicate, it really does feel that Alan Burnett was like, hey, can we get away with this in Super Friends and do this? And actually, I don't know if you caught this. We've talked about the back issue magazine in the past, but I think it's issue number 99, they talk about Alan Burnett talks about this episode, and they were trying to get a Batman's animated series off the ground in the 80s, and this episode was written as kind of a pilot episode.
You've been holding out on that info up until we're about done. Wow.
I was trying to fit the info in, and can you imagine if that happened and we had a series with Adam West with this kind of animation quality in the 80s? Like, it would have changed everything.
But we'd have never gotten Kevin Conroy.
Exactly. So it was written this episode apparently was written as a pilot for that, but that idea or pitch for a series got shot down. But then I guess a few years later, Burnett or somebody was able to pull that story and rework it into this episode. And apparently Vicky Vale was originally the Wonder Woman part, and they reworked Vicky Vale's lines for Wonder Woman, which
wild. Watch
the episode with that context, and a lot of that will probably make
I'm gonna go watch it again now and think about about that. I think that this episode for me is a very, very strong B+. A material is, I can throw it on any time. I don't know if I could throw this on at any time for me, but I don't necessarily have any complaints either. I think strong B+. Great episode.
I could just say like its place in Batman history is pretty underrated. The meme generating power alone. You've got Adam West, you've got Batman and Robin, and the origin and the animation quality is surprisingly good. And Andrea Romano, Alan Burnett, it's got so much. And so as much as I don't ever really grab Super Friends as something off the shelf to watch, this one would be one that I could just grab whenever I think about Super Friends. So it easily just kind of breaks through that barrier for me. So I would put it as an A for me. Yeah, already said that, but just to reinforce it.
That'll conclude this first episode of Batmanimation. Ryan Haas, go ahead, plug away quick, whatever you like.
Plug away. Just follow me on Twitter at SMB_Ryan.
Done.
And the Batman Podcast Network at BatPod Network, where all these wonderful shows will be. I'll probably tweet about this episode.
Yes.
With the sad Batman meme. We got to do it
with the sad one. Yes.
We can capitalize on it.
Yes, we have to. You can follow all of my interviews, reviews, and posts on Batman on Film proper. Just go to batmanonfilm.com. Like Haas said, with the BatPod Network, that's also just on batmanonfilm.com. You follow my podcast, the Batman Book Club, on Twitter at the Batman BC. All episodes are also posted on Batman on Film. You can listen to that wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we will figure out. It won't take too long till we figure out what the next episode is going to be of Batmanimation, as well as who is going to be on that episode of Batmanimation. So let's have announcer Rachel take us out.
Thanks for listening to Batmanimation, a BatmanOnFilm.com podcast revisiting the animated TV and film adventures of the Caped Crusader. Follow Batmanimation on Twitter @Batmanimation. Follow BOF on Twitter @TheBatmanOnFilm. Follow Jet on Twitter @BatmanOnFilm. For Jet and Team BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Batman on Film, authoritative, definitive, the original, established in 1998.